Ah, Burnout, how I miss you. Maybe not for much longer. I want to make this clear. We are not talking about this. This is recreation. Old heads of Criterion, 3 Fields Entertainment, they made the golf game and the crashing game. This is Stella Entertainment, and they have been working with EA a little bit longer than you might think. First off, let's talk about why this has come up. This tweet came out. Stella Without Context, our way of giving you kind of weird insider intel of what we're working on. We have reported on this for a while, but it seriously looks like it's going to be a Burnout game. Look at the picture. Pov, you're about to be rear-ended. Come. It's about it's crashing. And you're like, Theo, it could be that sex game. We reported this back in 2021 when they started hiring for a AAA racing game. I actually suspected for a while that we were going to get a Most Wanted 2012 remaster because these are the people that made the Burnout Paradise remaster and the Hot Pursuit remaster that we got. Since then, they've been working on an actual game. They actually mentioned specifically they are working on a AAA level project. This is a small studio that ultimately made remasters for EA. The founder and CEO worked for 16 years at Criterion Games. So anyway, collectively as a community, we are losing our minds. It just all lines up. EA's also had a thing for remaking old franchises again recently. Like, this was a thing they were actively thinking of doing. This was Dead Space, and turns out that people actually really love Dead Space returning. What's another incredible IP that EA has thrown away? And we also know that Need for Speed, at least temporarily, has been shoved to the side while they work on Battlefield, meaning there's a bit of a gap in terms of the arcade racing scene. Forza Horizon might not come out for a while, and obviously insiders will have known that. It's kind of the point. It's their job to know what's happening. So what better than to bring the return of Burnout? It would also make so much sense to me considering that EA has a lusting for the previous generation of Need for Speed games. In terms of like actual reviews and such, the Criterion era in terms of Need for Speed and of course also Burnout was oh my god, was absolutely crazy. The lust for Criterion was wild. Everyone was just mates with Criterion, I feel, and they were a bit too kind in a lot of areas. Maybe the same way, it's like how we look at the Underground era. Oh my god! If the Underground era returned, we would be super, super grateful, but at the same time, Hot Pursuit era returning for Need for Speed, it just makes a lot of... But then they really liked Most Wanted. Most Wanted! I'm going to get into a bit of a rant here. Anyway, Burnout. Let's also be clear, there was mega polish in terms of the Criterion games that you don't really see. Well, actually, no, Unbound was mega polish. So, I mean, shut the hell up. Why wouldn't Criterion get the contract to build that instead of Battlefield? Well, Battlefield is their big one, obviously, and we already know Criterion had experience with Battlefield, so they kind of filled that gap. And it would also make sense as to why they were so easy to throw away Need for Speed temporarily while they do work on Burnout, because they've got another racing IP in the oven. The cook? Piss on it! You absolute bum, I hate you so much! So, here are some things I wanted to discuss though if we are to get an actual Burnout game, because it's looking very, very likely. There is actually more information which I'll go into in a little bit. But one thing I really wanted to discuss, because this is one of the big sticking points when it comes to Burnout Paradise, which was the last proper Burnout game to exist. You could say Most Wanted 2012. But... So, one of the pain points of Paradise ultimately was its open world. It actually meant that we lost something in that the varied areas of Burnout ultimately were reduced. Everything has to be woven together in terms of an open world. The majority of people actually seem to want to have the return to a closed track game. But would that work in modern day? I don't know. It's been a while since I've actually played a modern closed track racing game, but there's a gap there. And ultimately, it means you can go to very varied, vast, different locations all the time. Again, in open world, it has to be kind of similar. But at the same time, if they do open world, I really hope they don't go crazy with the, oh, you can go everywhere, you can explore everywhere, because actually, I don't think that works with Burnout. These barriers are super helpful when it comes to events. Fun fact, my Need for Speed Unbound and Need for Speed Heat events were inspired by these events right here, the marked man ones. Basically, get to the location before you get bum rushed. It's super cool. Oh, it's the Men in Black. They're here to get me. And another good point is that you can create a racing game with baddies chasing you, cops, whatever. The cars are not licensed, so you don't have to pay car manufacturers. Them, they don't deserve any money. Jesus Christ, he came out of nowhere. I'm stuck in reverse. Without all these solid side walls and stuff, there would be a problem. How do you take people down properly? They would have to be crashed into buildings or something. We need... The barriers need to stay, so it would be a little bit different than the current everything wants to be Forza Horizon sort of thing. This AI is... However, one of my big pain points with Paradise was the crash mode. It was a bit shit. It was something we lost because in the open world, it wouldn't really work in the same way. This is where I bring out Burnout 2 Point of Impact, my favorite Burnout game, specifically for the crash mode. Mwah! Look at these unlicensed, no money to the car manufacturer cars. They look very old and dated these days, but there are multiple crash locations, advantage of that closed track situation. Though it should be made very clear, EA, that Burnout is not Need for Speed and they should not be confused as such. This is why the crashing and stuff in Need for Speed is no go, but crashing in Burnout, oh hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. If you never played these classic Burnout games, the crash mode essentially is where you try and cause an absolute massive pileup of, again, unlicensed, no rules in terms of, oh, the car manufacturer doesn't want the car to the bumper to come off, and create as much damage as possible and ultimately be the king of crashing. This one was a terrible one. I did my best. In the later Burnout games, you could do like this explosion and control, and it got even crazier. That's right, goal for the pants, man. You can do fun stuff like this. God, I had so much fun on this game when I was like, genuinely love the crashing, love the chaos. It was just brilliant. Oh no, yes. The objective, my aim is always to try and keep my car in the middle, or obviously try and hit as many as you can. Like if you can push someone into someone and cause absolute mayhem. Beam and G in the bin. Beam and G, eat your heart out. This is what I'm talking about. Please bring back a crash mode. If there's no crash mode, it's not a Burnout game. Therefore, I guess Paradise isn't a... It is, but just it's a lesser. So back to Paradise then. There's one final point that I wanted to make as like a staple bit of information. This is a bit of a weird one. When I replayed Burnout Paradise, and when I replay Most Wanted 2012, mostly Burnout Paradise, because ultimately I enjoyed the crashing and the takedowns and think that's kind of the core Burnout experience. I kind of noticed that when I saw a crash cam, it was kind of annoying. I'm not talking about taking other people down. That was kind of fun to watch. But there was a real pain point in me that I didn't want to see my car smashing and crashing for about 5 minutes. It felt like a pain point and I wanted to get back into the action. Maybe it's just because I hadn't played one for a really long time, but let me give you a demonstration. I didn't crash out. Let me give you a demonstration. Here we go. Yep. All right, back into the action. Thank you. It's got to be quicker than that. That's something that I definitely notice, is that I want to get going, ultimately. And that's not forgetting that Burnout Paradise is still one of the best multiplayer racing games to exist ever. It might be the best. So a little bit more information from Negi5, who has created this mega thread basically of more information that I and you may have missed. They've been an EA support studio for a good 5+ years, developed the we already mentioned that. And it looks like, once again, confirming that they're going to be using Unreal Engine. There was a bit of a debate between it's going to be Unreal Engine 4 or 5, but of course the newest and best likely. Also interesting note is that the Rally Note WRC, the new one, also uses Unreal Engine, so there could be some sharing between them. They also supported the development of a couple of other EA originals and supported development on Need for Speed Unbound. We appreciate you very much. They 100% confirmed that it's also going to be an arcade racer. I feel like we've had maybe too many Sims and Simcade games recently popping up. We want solid arcade fun, just chaos. It's also restated that it's not a remaster. It's specifically stated to be a new game, a new AAA IP, and they're first, actually. This has me super excited. I'm sure you understand here, but ultimately everything is pointing to it being a Burnout game or related to Burnout. It would make so much sense if you're going to bring an arcade racing game to market today to use other IPs that have already been built, the names people know, and once that initial audience comes in, the others may join. But there is still 100% a chance that it could be a brand new original IP, but nonetheless, it's an arcade racing game, which has me excited. EA has a lot of simulator, sim-focused games these days. Oh, I forgot about the stunt runs. I'm here like boosting along thinking it's a race. And again, I overall hope that in terms of the delay of Need for Speed, the push back onto the back burners, in terms of focusing on Battlefield, getting Battlefield out, and then hopefully maybe getting us back Criterion, that would be nice. That's just a kind of bit of a dream. We've got some that remain specifically on Need for Speed, so maybe they're building 2 Criterions. Why did they do this to Criterion? What the piss are they doing? Why did they close Black Box? I could go on. I genuinely could. But Burnout would fill that gap while they do work on Need for Speed, and then it would actually give, if we could get one Burnout, one Need for Speed, one Burnout, one Need for Speed, I would not complain, because ultimately both of them are very different. They deserve their own place. I'm getting no points. I've got 2 grand. And since EA wants to be big dog, big nuts in racing games, as they have stated many times, which is why they bought Codemasters, well, it makes a hell of a lot of sense to give us Burnout again. Come on, game. Come on. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you want to see? What is important to you in terms of Burnout? Unlicensed, okay, it's still going to be regulated. Pure mayhem, boosting, Burnout in. If you're into Burnout, make sure you check out these, because this is important, my friends.